I mean, let's just start off. What would you say, in a sentence, karate combat stands for?
Karate combat is the best thing what happened to martial arts in the last 100 years. It's the best striking league ever.
It's a bold statement to make.
It's bold, but it's also true.
How would you feel in 10 years' time a successful karate combat would look like? Especially, I mean, let's be candid with it. You are competing with UFC, Bellator, ONE FC. These are promotions that have been. They're here for a reason. They're big.
Are they? I mean, like it's some of it you mentioned are. I'm not sure how long they're gonna be here for.
Really?
I mean, yeah, the main ones obviously are, but some of the others, like recently they've been struggling for sure.
So where would you say in 10 years' time you see karate combat in relation to UFC?
I mean, in relation to the UFC, I would say it would be something similar. I mean, this is what we're working towards, to something similar as you are having with the NFL and the NBA. It's two different sports which are played with a ball, right? So it's still fighting, it's still with the ball, but the rules are different. And if you like the NFL, you are very likely to be a fan of the NBA as well. So I think we're not really competing with the UFC in a way that if somebody likes the UFC and watches the UFC, then they won't show up or look at our product or our content, because it's just as entertaining in some ways and shape. It's better than the UFC for some people, because if you look back at the Thompson and Kevin Holland fight just happened recently, a lot of people were super excited about it. A lot of people said that this is what they want to see, because it's more pleasure for the eyes, two guys standing and banging. Some people will like both, and some people might say that they want more ground game, more wrestling, and so everybody will find their spot and their joy in both of it. But I think we're creating a platform for strikers with our rule set, which is very unique. Also, the pit, which is not a ring, is not a cage, is pleasant for the eyes, and it gives a much better perspective for people at the events, but also from home at the screens. So I think in 10 years, probably we could be the 2-1 standing, and being different and being good and being the real top of the entertaining and the fight business.
Okay, so you see sort of running side by side as its own sort of thing. In that respect, do you see karate combat as an alternative for fighters? Say coming from the UFC, they feel like, maybe their wrestling let them down. They want to give it more of a striking oriented thing. We've seen Anderson Silva, for example, has transitioned to boxing. Do you see karate combat in however long being that new alternative where they can go, okay, maybe this is a new option for me?
Yeah, I think we're already on that path. We've got Raymond Daniels, we've got Gabriel Varga. These guys are super established in kickboxing, champions in kickboxing at Bellator, at Glory. They had no options if they wanted to stay with those organizations, but to do MMA, transition more to wrestling, to BJJ and grappling. But what if somebody doesn't want to do that? If you have some alternatives, you have some kickboxing organizations, but here you can still do takedowns. You still have 5 seconds to finish your fight. So I think 100% this is probably the best alternative if you're not if MMA is not necessarily your first pick. And we already see that, and people enjoy it, and people have a different preparation for it, and they're very appreciative of that.
Yeah. In that respect, do you see potentially how karate combat could actually be groundbreaking in the sense that it's the first kind of major karate promotion built and founded upon karate? Do you feel like maybe the other martial arts, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, they can start to follow suit, kind of following
following that starts fighting with us or doing their own league?
Become their own league. That's sort of start your own, where these individual martial arts look at themselves and think, no, we could be a promotion.
I think they could have a good shot, although I think what we are doing is more of a complex building of a promotion. You know, we're not only karate, but heavily a striking league. You know, we've got some taekwondo guys now. We have some kickboxers. We have some MMA guys with a karate background. So, like, what we really look for is guys who are ready to fight full contact, but have some karate background from the past, or not just from the past. I think what people forget that karate is one of the most popular martial arts out there. And there's so many people doing karate, but they didn't have a place or a platform where they could transition if they wanted to move away from Olympic karate, from sports karate, from other disciplines, Kyokushin, where, you know, like it's everything is super limited. What we bring to the table here is that is the platform. And when I say platform, is not only the rule set, but look at what we've done in the last 4 years. First, we started with events, live events at exotic locations, places where, you know, nobody went before in terms of a fight event. We did an event at the 102nd floor of the new World Trade Center on the Miami beach. We did some crazy things in Athens. And then we transitioned into this whole virtual environments, studio setups, where we could be anywhere in the world or even out of this world, right? With using the Unreal Engine, with using movie cameras and tracking cameras, so people could feel that they're really in the metaverse or at the Karateverse. And then we transitioned to our live events, and we still kept the production value, and we kept the entertainment value with the storylines, with the narrative of these seasons and the events. And that's where I say it will be super hard for a Muay Thai organization and everybody else not to do just, they can always start like a traditional sports organization, but something so complex as what we've been doing and what we have done in the last couple of years, that's super difficult, and we're only getting started. We just announced our decentralized initiatives, you know, like everybody is going to be a karate token holders. They're going to have much more influence on whatever happens to the league. I think it's people have ideas, and then they pitch it to others. We have ideas, but we already created a league, and we're out there. We've got millions of followers online on social media. We've got the clips with over 80 million views. So like we already built a base for the platform, and it exists, and we're just building on top of it. So I think it would be really hard to duplicate or to copy what we're doing. What the UFC is doing, that's what everybody else does these days, just copy paste and be a UFC junior. Look at PFL, look at Bellator, look at all these other organizations, local or global. It's always just different branding. It's a different logo and different colors, but it's still the same. I would say Glory is doing something different because it's kickboxing, it's a different sport, but when you go to a show, it's still a stadium show. It's still very, very similar, but instead of a cage, you see a ring. When you come to a karate combat event, or when you look at it online or in one of the countries on linear, you see a completely different product, different rule set. Everything is different, but sometimes different is worse. But here, different is better. So I think that's why we stand out, and that's what people will realize if they haven't already.
So you've positioned karate combat as the alternative to UFC and that kind of product. So if they're looking for something, if the fans are looking for something entirely different, then that's what karate combat offers itself as. With regards to that and with respect to that, are you looking at it's true for professional wrestling, it's true for all kinds of sports, is you always need those very shiny attraction signings to establish yourself. Do you ever look across at UFC and think, I'd love to have that fighter in the pit against one of my homegrown fighters and sort of that way establish what karate combat is on a more mainstream level?
Yes, absolutely. Not only from the UFC, but anywhere where we see talent who we think would really fit well in our rule set and in our fighting arena. We're always looking, and we're always talking to people. But again, like in the past, we've seen that guys with crazy experience in MMA or in kickboxing, when they step in the pit, it's completely new. Everything is different. When you have the 45-degree wall and the slope, when you back in down, or you're going back, you have to just create a new strategy, new tactics on like how you do fighting. And even the 3 minutes, 3 rounds, 3 minutes. If it's a championship fight, then it's 5 rounds of 3 minutes. It's just different. So like, it's not an easy transition. And we kind of waited a little bit, because when we started the league, we signed over 100 fighters from different karate leagues, mostly from Olympic karate, because these guys, that was the biggest amateur organization and the biggest pool for us to choose from. But those guys didn't have the full contact experience. So we kind of had to wait a little bit until these guys transition well, they adapt well to the environment and to be punched in the face, And then this is because in the very beginning, if we put like MMA guys or other full contact guys in the pit, then they would just demolish these guys. But this doesn't happen anymore. We gave them a little bit leeway, 2-3 years, until they transitioned to be like really, really competitive in the pit. And I think if you would bring top 10 guys from different organizations, from the best organizations, and top 5 from smaller organizations to the pit to fight our current champions, then they would have a really hard time beating them. I can give you an example. For example, Bruno Souza came, he was the LFA champion, and then he transitioned into the UFC. Super nice guy, very, very deep karate backgrounds coming from the Machida school. He entered the pit and he won his first fight. And then he met Edgar Scrivers, our former champion, and he couldn't beat him. It was very even. But what I'm trying to say is that if you transition as a champion from a different MMA organization, you come here, that's not like an easy path to be the champion. Obviously, it helps you, the experience, but this is just different, and people need to adapt and adjust. But obviously, people with an extended background at other full contact sports can adjust more easily and faster.
Yeah, I mean, I said about major signings. You have already had 3 big signings in Bas Rutten GSP and Wonderboy. I mean, I'm sure you had that conversation. Like, come on, one fight. How did that go with each of them?
I mean, the amount of time I had these conversations with these guys, and I'm not giving up. I've been in sports and fighting for more than 20 years on the highest level, and one of the things I learned is you just don't give up. And but I would say there are things when if you don't give up, then you're just done. And like that's how I find myself these days with GSP, for example, because like he's not like, I mean, I don't know, it's like he just doesn't want it anymore in terms of small gloves and the rule set of what MMA or karate combat has to offer. So I tried so many times with him. So and you also have to respect the man. Whenever I see an opening, I slide in and I say like, dude, you've got to fight. I really wanted and I still want to make a GSP versus Machida fight for the ultimate GOAT. Machida wants it. GSP is just laughing at us. Like I have conversations with both of them and they say like, guys, I'm over, my time is over and we have to pass it to the next generation. But when it comes to Machida, absolutely. When it comes to Stephen Thompson, absolutely. Raymond Daniels is one of these guys. He's already fighting with us. So, but going back to your initial question, I'm not really hunting for guys like some other organizations do, because, and I tell you why, because they pay, let's say Eddie Alvarez for one championship, right? They pay a ridiculous amount of money for him to get there, to get his built-in audience, to get his name, but he's there for a very short term and then he's out of there and just like looking for another opportunity. The same what you could see with BKFC and all these other guys. And I think we just want to spend our money more wisely and more smarter, and just to build our own talent. And to use the money what we have for guys like Gabriel Varga, Raymond Daniels, Rafael Aghayev, Sasha Palatnikov, who we just signed, and these guys who are not extremely, I would say, and it's good for them. I would pay them the same amount of money if I could. But right now we don't have that budget. And also the guys we want to sign them because they want to be here, right? They want to be here for a multi-year deal and not just because of the money. Money is important for everybody. But if money is the only factor, then these guys will just come and go. And also our structure is never like a one-off fight where like we pay you a big dollar and then you're out. We have minimum 2 years multi-fight deals. And most of the guys who just want a big paycheck or a payday, they're not even interested in. So that's why, these conversations are not really happening. I'm not saying that I wouldn't think about it if opportunity came, but right now I think our goal is not that.
Okay, so you're looking to establish sort of a long-term core of faces of the company, essentially. So that faces, when you go to karate combat, you're getting your Aghayevs, you're getting your Raymond Daniels. I actually wanted to talk about the December 17th card a little bit. Raymond Daniels is obviously, he is former Bellator kickboxing champion. You've got Aghayev, who's just a serial medalist in the World Championships and Olympics, and then God knows how many other tournaments. Do you feel like that's maybe going to go down as one of your first super fights between? Because realistically, it's kickboxing versus karate. It's a fight for the purists because it is a clash of styles, and you've got someone who's perhaps karate combat is the best thing for Aghayev because it's his best. It's his version of the major leagues. Now he's got Raymond Daniels coming in. He's an outsider. He's a Bellator fighter. Is it kind of that? I mean, I'm a pro wrestling fan, so I like to sell the fight. Is that where you're going with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I said this previously that, like we had a hit list of 3 guys we wanted to sign last year. It was Raymond Daniels, Rafael Aghayev, and Gabriel Varga. And I mean, like we got lucky, and also we worked hard, and we signed all of them. And because it rarely happens that you in life in general, right? That you want something and it happens as you planned it. And we didn't only sign these three guys, but they already competed. They all won. And now out of the three, two is fighting against each other. And the third one is also on the card. When it comes to Aghayev and Raymond, this is a fight which only happens because karate combat exists. So if we didn't create the platform, then these two guys would be basically Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal playing tennis, but in two different universes, in two different planets, right? It's the DC and Marvel. It's something where these guys are so much ahead of competition in their own fields, and they are so accomplished, and they are, still not super young, but super active and physically very fit. And now we created something where these guys can meet and we can figure out which guy is the better. Raymond Daniels is kickboxing for 95% of the world, not in the USA. In USA, Raymond Daniels is the karate GOAT, right? In the sports karate circuit, he is the number one guy. He's been there forever, and everybody considers him to be the best. And then you have Rafael Aghayev, who is coming from a traditional karate background, where I come from as well. And he is the GOAT of the GOATs. In the last 20 years, no one remotely close, or nobody could do anything close to what he accomplished. And it's not only the results. It's not just medals, because people can argue like he only got silver medal at the Olympics, but people don't care. If he got 7th place at the Olympics, Rafael Aghayev would still be considered the best of the best because of how he handled himself. He's a short guy in his division, and you're gonna see in December 17th that we've got Raymond Daniels, a lengthy, tall guy, and he's gonna fight Aghayev, who would be relatively short and small, even in the lightweight division. So when you say it's the clash of styles, it's not only because kickboxing versus karate, but also because of their size. And also Raymond Daniels is a kicker. He kicks, look at all his highlights. And then Aghayev is closing the distance and takes you down. So like, how are you gonna kick somebody who is never there, or it's just already too close for you to kick? And then Aghayev, because he's coming from a point fighting style, been fighting in team competitions forever, where there's no weight divisions, because it's just, you have to punch the other one and then you get a score, right? So like he was fighting big guys for 20 plus years. Did Raymond Daniels fight smaller guys like Rafael Aghayev in his professional career? No way. Nobody even close. Can he get people in his camp who kind of duplicate or replicate what Rafael Aghayev can do? No way. Can Aghayev bring some taekwondo guys and kickers who are really good and taller than him? I think he's got a better chance to do that. But the experience what Raymond Daniels has in full contact is not even comparable to what Aghayev has. So I think that's why this fight is so interesting, and that's why it's going to go down in the history of karate combat. But I think in the history of striking, as one of the things people appreciate now, but they're going to appreciate it for the upcoming years and years. And this could be something where it's, the Muhammad Ali Frazier. I don't know. I don't know what to compare with. For me, it's a little bit Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather 10 years before it actually happened, right? So it's something where, so these guys and us, we didn't really calculate and do like, okay, let's wait until he's like retired or old or slow. No, these guys are at their peak right now, and they're gonna meet, and now we're gonna figure out who is the better man.
There we go then. I mean, Raymond Daniels reminds me, when I look at him, he reminds me a lot of a Jon Jones and Michael Venom Page. they've both, I mean, MVP, for example, expanded into BKFC. Jon Jones has historically had issues with UFC. Do you look at them fighters and think, like, if they make themselves available to you, you would give them the opportunity in the same way you have given Raymond Daniels? And do you feel like they'd work?
Yeah, I mean, MVP for sure. That's a name which pops up all the time. We had opportunity to do fights where these guys do belong to other promotions long term as well, but like we turned that down. We're not really interested in that because then they're like, who is the real promoter? One day he wears a Bellator shirt, the next day he does a karate combat. So like we're not really into that. MVP for sure. If I don't know about his contracts, but we would definitely be interested in Jon Jones. Yeah, absolutely. So anybody who is a striker and not a pure boxer, for example, and somebody who can also be very creative about takedowns and sweeps. I think this is the league for them. It was created for them. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, awesome. I mean, whilst we're on the subject of who could fight for the promotion, I was thinking about it earlier, and I was thinking, whilst you said about doing one-off matches, you said that you'd consider it, but it's not your thing. Would you consider, as controversial as he is, someone like Andrew Tate coming in? Because, I mean, he controversial as he is, he brings a large audience. And I mean, if, for example, Karate Combat had the opportunity to throw its hat in the ring and say, look, you know, Jake Paul, well, this is an option, come here instead. Would you do that? Would you start to bridge over it, or is that too like Triller fight verse for you?
No, it wouldn't be Triller. Triller is trash. With you know, like whatever they did before, and you could see now they had to basically buy another organization to be still relevant at the business, at the fight world. So yes, I mean, it's Andrew Tate did kickboxing and was an established kickboxer. Jake Paul is doing great now in boxing. You know, like some people are happy about it. Most not. I've just been to a NFL game and I was quite surprised because he was there as well, and people were not happy about it. You know, like which was strange because like it's I don't feel or see anything to hate on the guy because I think he is probably right now up there to be the best promoter in the game. When it comes to boxing, 100%. Maybe, you know, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, I think they are doing a very decent job. But what this kid and, you know, his team is doing is amazing. You know, like if you look at it from a promoter's perspective, then, you know, is really good. So I would. I mean, if they came to me, both of them, I would turn it down, but just because of the attention, because, you know, how cool that would be that, you know, Andrew Tate and Jake Paul comes to you, that they want to fight in the karate combat pit because they don't want to do kickboxing. They don't want to do MMA. So let's figure out a way which is neutral for both of them. Perfect. This is karate combat. So first I would have to turn it down for some media attention, and then I would do it because, you know, like it makes all the sense for us. And, you know, like if I turn that down, or, you know, like to answer your original question, then I would just not understand what the fight promotion is all about.
Yeah.
You want to make the biggest fights, but I think this fight would be something similar, or not similar, but different than what these one-off guys are doing at different promotions, right? Where it's just something completely different. And look, I mean, Samuel Erickson and Tarek Khalifi on December 17th, you can argue that it is an influencer fight. It's not as the scope of a Jake Paul fight or Andrew Tate. But, you know, Erickson has the attention of Joe Rogan. He's got over 650K followers. And then Tarek is a celebrity couple in Algeria. His wife has over 1 million followers. He's one of the most popular actress in Algeria. and these guys called each other out, and they're gonna fight now. So it is, in a way, it is. But I think again, it shows you how we think about influencer fights. It's not just like put anybody in there who has a big following. Let's see, Samuel Eriksson already fought with us. He's signed with us for multi-year. He's got an extensive Taekwondo background, right?
Mhm.
And then all he does on his Instagram as well is about fighting, is about, you know, showing off his technique. And then you have Tarek, who been part of the French national team, doing karate for over 15 years, been competing for years and years, and happen to have a big following as well. So now we put this together. But so when you think about it, it's not only a spectacle about social media, but also it has value in the sports world.
I mean, that mate, it just makes sense to make those kind of fights, doesn't it? What's your kind of response in terms of, because whilst you've got Eddie Hearn on one hand, he loves it, he
Yep.
sees it, he's been quite invested with the KSI Logan Paul stuff. You've got
Yep.
Dana White, who seems to get underneath his skin the mere existence of these kind of fights. Where do you sit on kind of the backlash to it? Do you feel like Dana White's probably, because I'm not being funny, if the UFC were to do it, they would make a lot of money. Do you feel like maybe Dana White's cutting off his nose to spite his face a little bit?
I think it's I don't know which event it was, but like he said how much he hates Jake Paul, and you know, like it's bullshit, and like the kid is a joke. And then next thing you see that the guy is sitting front row at a UFC event, right? So I mean, you can bullshit people, but I think it's very transparent that he would do it in an instance as well. I mean, it's part of his, you know, like his thing to say things completely differently. He said like, I wouldn't ever do it, and then, you know, like he had all these guys from the WWE, you know, Brock Lesnar, you know, like that worked. But CM Punk, I don't know how that turned out. For sure, he got what he wanted, but like I see it similarly. What's the difference between Jake Paul or Andrew Tate fighting at the UFC, or having CM Punk and building it up like it's a real thing? So and then giving CM Punk opponents who, like, I mean, come on, and then even, you know, not succeeding with it. So I think these guys are the best in the game. I really respect them. I look up to them. I'm really new to being a promoter, but again, I wouldn't want to do things just copy pasting them. We do stuff differently. We're not copy pasting what they do. But you know, the way I look at things is that you have to take the good stuff, what people already figured out. Because if you don't do that, then you're just starting everything all over again. If you look at the UFC, what they accomplished in 30 years is it's amazing. So what can we learn from that 30 years and implement it without being just the same thing? So when the iPhone was invented, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't something like the phone was already there. Mobile phones were there. They just did something differently and built something better. So like what Eddie Hearn is doing is now he tells you, and he's trying to do something very similar what the UFC did, but in boxing. Yeah. But also he's got a good character, you know, like he's really well spoken. He looks good. So, you know, you need these kind of things to be able to create the platform what he's creating. I think we have something very similar in karate, although I would say this, that we are coming from way behind because of the sport itself. Karate being always a traditional martial art, it was never really, in a way, considered as boxing or as now what the UFC built with MMA as a professional sport for entertainment. It was for entertainment for movies, for, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee's of the world back in the 80s. So, and Cobra Kai right now, you know, super famous. So people appreciate it. But, you know, for us to build something and to get distributors, to get people behind it's a little bit more difficult to do with karate than if I just started a boxing organization right now. So I think we're doing a decent job there, and what we've accomplished in 4 years is amazing. We're beating all these guys on digital views and social media following and everything else, because all the stuff we're creating, and I think we just think long term. And if we look at the menu of what these guys accomplished and what they did really great, is the same what the UFC did with the WWE. A lot of things they just got from WWE, but you still don't have the feeling that it's just a copy paste of WWE. Yeah. So I think that's where we come in place, where we take the good stuff, for example, as how we run the organization or operations, how the fighters are handled when they are here. They love to be here. The fans love them. So I think there's a lot of stuff to learn, and a lot of things we show them what they could do as well with the virtual environments, with, you know, transitioning now to a almost a fan controlled league.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 2 minutes left on the call, so I'm going to round up with my last question. In 2023, what are 3 fights, to put injuries, retirements, personal issues aside, what are 3 fights you would like to make in Karate Combat in 2023?
Great question. I would really like to make, no matter what happens now, December 17th, but Machida versus Raymond Daniels. Mm-hmm. That's something I would really like to do. And then have the lightweight belt defended, you know, by Luis. Now we've got people like Edgar Scrivers. We have Gabriel Varga fighting right now. We have Bruno Souza, who just, you know, I mentioned before. So like that division is super stacked and really, really good. And then I wouldn't, for the last one, I would just say a light heavyweight and a heavyweight division to build it up so that we can have very decent champions there.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you very much.